Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'm going to be doing some synastry on Sean Combs and his mother, Janice. So, what synastry means is this is a tool in astrology where you can actually find out about the relationship between two people by comparing their natal charts. So, in the inner ring, we have Sean Combs, and then we have Janice Combs on the outer ring. So, what I'm going to do in this video is take you guys through what their aspects say about their relationship with each other. What are their strengths? What are their challenges? How do they tend to react towards one another? What are the power dynamics that are taking place here? So I have to say I don't really know much about Janice Combs at all. The little that I do know are from what I got in the documentary on Netflix. So I do know she was a single mom. I think she worked two or three jobs to support her and her son. It was just the two of them. And I think there were allegations she was physically abusive. And then, of course, he ended up slapping her in public or something like that as an adult. And then she's recently come out and said that Netflix made all that up. So that's pretty much the extent of what I know. So I'm kind of going into this with some blind faith. Let me know what you guys think about some of the aspects I'm going to reveal and what I think that they say about this mother and son duo. Let me know whether it speaks to what you've seen about them, what you've heard about them, so on and so forth. There is a lot of activity between Janice and Sean around the North Node and the South Node. So I'll start with Janice's North Node. This is in Libra. And so the North Node is always going to be this upside down U. And it's always going to be opposite of a U shape, which represents the South Node. So the North Node is a bit of a karmic past life aspect. It shows us, well, actually, that's the South Node. So the South Node shows us where you've been in previous lifetimes, what you are trying to let go of in this lifetime. The North Node is what you're sort of destined to do, the path you're destined to be on. It's really like your soul's purpose in this lifetime. So Janice's North Node is on her son's Uranus, and it may not look like it because when you have a bi-wheel, the planets shift a little bit, but this is making a conjunction because her North Node's at 7 degrees of Libra, and Sean Combs's Uranus is at 6 degrees of Libra. So what does this mean? So in this case, Sean being the Uranus person, he's going to bring a sense of newness and change to his mother's life path. But he may also really push her limits and test her comfort zone. This is someone who he may provide a lot of electricity to her life, both exciting and uncomfortable. So he may have been quite a rebellious child that really tested her patience, for instance. She may really feel that her son is awakening something in her she didn't know she had. And as more of an adult, he could really want to help her transform herself or really kind of get in touch with what makes her unique, what makes her special. Um, and so again, it's opposing her South Node. So he's going to help her find newness and shake up the identity she came into this life with. I do find it interesting that her South Node is in Aries in this chart because South Node in Aries is kind of all about finding out your identity. You're really going through life asking yourself, who am I? I really don't know myself. What do I want to do in this world? What do I want to do in my body? So it's kind of starting out from scratch. Whereas this North Node in Libra is about beauty, grace, refinement. It's about really learning how to be in a partnership. And as I discussed in my video on his natal chart, Sean Combs is someone who knows Libra very well with Venus in Libra conjunct Jupiter in Libra. Venus is in its rulership. So I feel like he's teaching his mom how to be Libra almost, if that makes sense. Now she has Pluto conjunct Chiron in her chart. And I know it is on the ascendant, on Sean Combs' ascendant in this chart. I'm not going to say that's accurate or not because we don't have a birth time for him. But Pluto conjunct Chiron for her is really a doozy. What this tells me is that just like her son, this is someone who has really strong survival instincts. She does not trust easily. She can be quite hypervigilant. There are definitely wounds here for her around power dynamics, feeling overpowered when she was a kid. And that's really going to be a theme that I'm going to bring you guys throughout the synastry. There's a lot of power struggles between Sean and his mother, and yet they kind of can't get away from each other. It's almost like there's this fatal attraction where they're just magnetized and kind of stuck like glued to each other, but it's really not always the healthiest relationship, and it's like they're kind of locked into this power struggle. So her Pluto is making a few significant aspects. So her Pluto is making a square to his Mercury. So I say that because her Pluto is in Leo, 3 degrees Leo, and then his Mercury is at 4 degrees Scorpio. Leo and Scorpio are both fixed signs. They have fixed energy. And so this is a square. This means there's going to be some sort of tension there. So Pluto squares Mercury in a synastry. This could indicate that there's some kind of struggle over having control of information. I don't know if that makes sense to people. So there may be fear about what the other person knows and how the other person could use that information. A way this energy could play out is that one person has information the other person wants, but the person that has the information keeps it to themselves in order to control something or have something happen to their advantage. Information could be used as a form of currency. So, in other words, one person says to the other, if you provide me with the password to your bank account, I'll give you this very valuable piece of information no one else knows. Or, if you give me this information, I won't spill your secrets. I won't let the world know this about you. Sean Combs, being the Mercury person, could also really feel with his mom like he needs to watch himself. He needs to watch his words very carefully. Otherwise, his mom could use it against him later. Whereas his mother is Pluto, I'm thinking really may want to kind of dig her son to get the truth. She may really feel that he is hiding information from her. And because it's Pluto, she could really obsess about it. This could keep her awake at night, or she could try and pressure him into talking. So I don't know if that makes sense to people. Does that ring true with what you know about their relationship? Let me know. Now, adding on to this, her Pluto is also making a square to his Saturn because this is at 4 degrees of Taurus. So, again, Taurus is fixed, it has fixed energy. So, it's making this square, this hard aspect that indicates a struggle, tension between him and his mom. So, as the Pluto person, again, this is about power and control. Janice is going to try to control her son, is what I'm speculating based on the aspect, but as much and he's really trying to resist her. I see him as like actually really trying to block her and kind of block her energy, but he can't get away from her. So she's going to try to control her son, and as much as he wants to block her, he can't disentangle himself. Saturn equals long-term commitment, especially in synastry. So, Saturn, yes, it is a malefic planet. We tend to, associate it with quite negative connotations. But I have to say, if you're missing an if you're missing an aspect with with Saturn when you're in doing synastry with someone, um, you could be really missing a key ingredient because Saturn, when there is Saturn that, makes an aspect with your chart in synastry, it binds the two of you together. It means there's loyalty, there's a sense of we are going to last, we're really going to make it through. Saturn equals long-term commitment. So what I see here is that as much as his mother could want to control him, perhaps transform him in some way, if he doesn't want that, um, then he's really going to dig his heels in. It's also in Taurus, so he's incredibly stubborn, but he does feel a sense of duty to his mother. He's obligated to her and he can't disentangle himself from her. I'm thinking about the fact that, he didn't have a father growing up. It was just him and his mom, I believe. So she was like his mother and his father. He could also feel that if he does break free of her, I wonder since she's Pluto with this aspect, I almost wonder if he worries that if he does break free of her, that she could somehow destroy him. She could somehow destroy his life. So again, I don't know if that makes sense to people. Let me know what you think. Now, if you watched my last video, or if you watched my video on Sean Combs and his natal chart, he has Moon trine Saturn. Again, I don't know if the moon is exactly at 8 degrees because we don't have a time of birth. But I did speculate he probably does have the trine. And I also speculated that based on Moon trine Saturn, because Moon represents the mother, that his mother could be just as calculating and strategic as he is, and that she could have really strategized ways to get closer to her son, especially when he became famous. Well, look at this. Her moon in this chart is in Virgo. Now, I will say we don't know if this is ironclad. We don't have a birth time. So if she was born after 8:30 p.m. on this day, her moon would flip into Libra. But it is quite likely that her moon is sitting on her son's Pluto. And I say that because with the conjunction in synastry, what we're looking for is a 7-degree orb. So with Sean Combs' Pluto being at 26 Virgo, this really gives us a pretty good shot because her moon is either going to be either 7 degrees earlier or 7 degrees after 26 Virgo. So I'm going to say it is likely that her moon is on his Pluto. What this tells me is that Sean's bond with his mother could be all encompassing, and his mother may literally feel as though she would not be able to live without her son. So, as much as I talked about Sean Combs' sense of responsibility to his mother, she could feel as though she's kind of hanging on by a thread with him. There might be fears he could really abandon her. And this can be such a codependent aspect in synastry. I would wonder with an aspect like this if they had a very intense kind of all or nothing relationship. So either they're feeling very positive and wonderful. He feels like she's a great mom. She's nurturing, especially since she's the moon, she's his mother in this dynamic. Or what this tells me is that he may have experienced her as being quite controlling, invasive, and overwhelming. Her moods or any kind of big mood swings she could have also really honed his ability to have this superpower of X-ray vision, figuring people out, predicting how they are going to react, which Scorpio is quite good at anyway. He already has Sun Mercury in Scorpio. So this adds another layer here to me, that Sean Combs deals and has probably dealt with issues of his mother being intrusive with him, wanting too much from him, overwhelming him. And yet again, there's this kind of overwhelming, magnetizing bond that they have. He just, again, I see this as like he feels really unable to separate from her emotionally. And so if we talk about his moon is making a trine to her Saturn. It's actually making a direct trine if we go by the 8 degrees of Virgo, because she has Saturn 8 degrees Taurus. And so not only does he have Moon trine Saturn natally, he has it with his mom in Synastry. So this is quite telling. This can be a very nice aspect, Moon trine Saturn in Synastry, because again, the Saturn person can really provide support to the moon. There's a sense of durability with this aspect, like this relationship is built to last. But the catch with this aspect is that the person with Saturn, so mom here, may provide support and stability as long as she's getting her needs met in return. So, for instance, let's imagine that as a kid, Sean Combs had a bad day at school. He comes home feeling upset. He wants to talk about it or cry about it. And his mom, I could see her with this aspect saying something like, we don't have time for that right now. I need you to take care of this. You need to mop the floors, take out the trash. And while you're at it, can you give me some money so I can pay the rest of the bills? So this kind of creates this codependency I was talking about earlier, where I think Sean came to feel as though his mother had no one, just him. He had to be the man of the house. He had to hold it down for her. And only if he does this will she give him what he needs. This is also a relationship where the moon person, so Sean Combs, might learn quite quickly that they need to deal with their own emotions by themselves. So I could see a person like this saying to themselves or being taught, by their mother, don't cry over spilled milk. And he's learned that because that if he does that, that could throw the steady, reliable nature of feeling okay with his mom. I think that's why we do see also in this chart, he already has natally the moon trine his own Saturn. This is somebody who has become quite skilled, in my mind, at either suppressing his emotions or self-regulating in a kind of very masterful, methodical, disciplined way so that he can just carry on and get things done. So going back to Pluto again, her sun is making a square to his Pluto. And again, this is a hard aspect. This is tension. Sun here is in Sagittarius, and then his Pluto is in Virgo, and these are both mutable signs. They're both within 7 degrees of each other. So this is a square. This is going to again mean that there's some kind of a struggle between them. They're butting heads in some way. So we're starting to see a theme here with the Pluto. This is all about power and control. So one person in the relationship may feel controlled or possessive. This also kind of means one person has the power to transform the other person. And so, um, being that Janice is the sun, I think this shows me that she is the one in this aspect who could feel challenged, potentially wounded by Sean. In effect, they can both struggle with having control of the other. And again, this means real emotional intensity to their relationship. They just can't seem to break apart from one another. I will say when you have Sun square Pluto in synastry with someone, it is not always bad. If you use the energy in the right way, this could be a very powerful, positive, transformative aspect. So, for instance, if they use this aspect in the right way, they could potentially use their power struggles as a way to pause and really kind of reflect, go inwards. wonder, well, what does this mean about me? This aspect could be great for a couple who's entering couples therapy, for example. They could really pursue personal growth together and come out on the other side of it. So getting back to her north node, Janice's north node, um, no, I'm sorry. I want to focus on his north node now at 19 degrees of Pisces. So going to his north node, she has Mars trine his north node. So I'm going to go into a bunch of trines they have. So this is a pretty positive aspect. So Mars trine North Node in Synastry, this would indicate that Sean's mother is inspiring him to move forward on his life path. Together, they could really cheer each other on, really motivate, and really inspire one another to achieve their dreams. And there could be a sense of attraction here with a shared purpose, a shared goal. So it's like we're in this together to create big things. So this is quite supportive. They also have Neptune trine Neptune. So that can be very good as well. Again, they share these visions, these big dreams that they both want together. This could also make things quite confusing. This could add to this enmeshment in their relationship. Again, this is not your average son mother duo, they're kind of unusual. Um, Another thing I want to mention is that her moon. I'm going to say, again, because we don't know exactly, but there's a really good chance I think it might be trine his, or yeah, trine his Mars. And again, I did talk about the fact I really believe his Mars is at 29 Capricorn. I don't, it's my opinion, I don't think his Mars is in Aquarius, but be that as it may, this is also a trine, but this is not, this can get nasty. So Mars trine, Moon trine Mars in a natal chart or in synastry. This could mean for synastry in particular that emotions can run high. This can create some really powerful anger outbursts. I mean, this could have been responsible. Okay, if he did slap his mother, I know she's saying it never happened, but you know, I could see this, being a part of that because this means these two people are really going to rev each other up emotionally. Emotions can run very high and they can really get quite angry at each other to the point they lash out at one another, potentially get aggressive. Again, I always say in my videos, trying does not always necessarily mean good. It just means something comes easy. So in synastry, when someone's moon makes a trine to Mars, it doesn't, to me, what that means, what the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, okay, they're really gonna have some, emotional potential arguments, real high emotions with one another and that could be a common thing. Um, Another thing here with Sean's, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention with this Mars trine his North Node, I talked about in Sean Combs' natal chart in the video that I didn't feel like, and this is especially because he has South Node conjunct Pluto um is that I remember saying that I didn't feel like he was really using the Pisces energy to his advantage. And I feel like now that he's in prison, he's kind of been forced into a Pisces environment. But I was thinking about it a little bit more. So yeah, he wasn't really a musician. I know he tried and really didn't make it, and he wasn't that good, which I think has a lot to do with his Mercury opposing Saturn, which I talked about. But he was involved in the world of music and artistry. He was controlling everything, but he was around musicians, singers, rappers all the time. So I'm not sure he was using the Pisces energy directly or head on, but he was really surrounded by it. And so I just wanted to mention that because the Mars trine, the North Node, that could essentially be her being like, yeah, yeah, keep going, keep going in this music industry. Um, but her Mercury is making a square to this North Node for him. So that can cause some tension. She might make observations that challenge his thinking, his decision making. She has Mercury in Sag. So a Mercury in Sag could be thinking very big picture, whereas he has a moon in Virgo. So, well, they both do, but moon in Virgo likes to observe every nook and cranny. And his Mercury's in Scorpio. So Mercury and Scorpio too. I mean, they can get really kind of caught up in looking at details, nuances, but she tends to look at things in a more macro way. She could also be quite blunt at times. Mercury and Sag is quite candid. They kind of tell it like it is. They don't necessarily sugarcoat or think about how this is going to affect you. So that's going to be a challenge. So yeah, conversations can feel quite challenging and critical. That may have led to this Mars trine Moon energy between the two of them. Now, her Jupiter is sitting on his Saturn. She actually has Jupiter conjunct Saturn, which I'm going to go into. But so with Saturn and Taurus, which they both have, I'll go again. I'm going to talk again about for Sean Combs. In his video, I talked about, or I hypothesized that his Saturn and Taurus may have had to do with him really feeling a lack of having stuff, having money, having ownership of possessions, having direction in his early life. He had no father figure. And with his other planets, he really was able to shift himself into high gear and build the life he did not have or did not get as a child. With her Jupiter on his Saturn, I see this as quite similar to Mars trine North Node. She's really going to inspire him to take risks, to build his empire, to really go out there and give it his all. Now, his Saturn, this goes right back to the codependency. His Saturn on her Jupiter, um, he's going to feel as though he needs to really ground her. So, for instance, I could see this playing out like he gives her, $1 million or what, I don't know. He gives her $10,000 and he says something like, Mom, the money I gave you, you can't use it or you shouldn't use it on a new jewelry or a new car. I'm going to put your money into stocks or into investments. That's just an example. He does feel that he really has to care for her, take care of her, ground her. Now, she does already have Saturn conjunct Jupiter. Um, this aspect can be rare. I actually have this aspect in my chart. So it depends on, again, what year you were born. But it's rare, this conjunction, but it does exist. So what this means is when she can start off with a bang, get excited, get ahead of herself, but then she can kind of quickly reel herself back in, so it's like a real push and pull. So she's already gonna kind of feel this within herself anyway. But Saturn on Saturn, so she has her Saturn on his Saturn. Saturn conjunct Saturn in Synastry. It's another aspect that can feel very fated, almost like we are meant to be together. We have this very lasting, durable relationship, and we are going to stand the test of time. So that is my interpretation of the synastry between Sean Combs and Janice Combs. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if these interpretations line up with what you know about them, because again, I really don't know much about her. Um, this is quite interesting. They're definitely a dynamic duo, as I keep saying. Um, they just kind of can't seem to get away from each other. And there's a lot going on in terms of power. So let me know what you guys think. If there's anyone in true crime that you want me to do synastry on, let me know. Hang in there. The transits are going to be kind of tough this month. So, we're all in this together. We're all feeling it to some degree. It depends on the placements in your chart, but there's a lot going on right now in Aquarius that we're really feeling. So hang in there, and I'll catch you on my next video. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching.